Thanks for watching this episode of Turning to Him. I invite you to just take a few seconds right now at the beginning and subscribe to this channel so that you can get more videos like this in your feed. Thanks again. Hello, everybody. My name is Zach Batty, and this is Turning to Him. You may recognize the face next to me. This is Xavier Compton coming back for a second interview. Xavier, how are you doing?
I'm doing well.
Good. It's been a while since we spoke. It's been about 6 months.
Yeah, 6 months. Yeah.
What has life been up to for you?
Okay. It was, I think it was November when we last spoke. Not sure if I told you about the class I was going to be teaching at Institute then, or if that was even a thing.
No. Okay, so just like a quick review, 6 months ago, you were a relatively new member of the church.
Yeah.
Um, and let's see, you were in school, working towards your degree,
Yes.
and that's kind of where we were at.
Yeah.
So fill us in.
I'll give you a brief timeline of what's happened in last 6 months, and we can talk about each individual thing.
Perfect. I love it.
In September, I was baptized, confirmed, received the Aaronic priesthood. Then let's see what else happened. Began attending regularly, passing sacrament, things like that. In December, I got my patriarchal blessing.
Okay.
Let's see what else. Oh, and February, I started teaching a class at Institute, 6 week class at Institute.
What
And
class? Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. We'll get the details. Go ahead.
and in May, I received the Melchizedek priesthood.
Congratulations. And then that was in May. Okay. Well, I mean, we're already halfway through June.
Yeah.
What's you taking a break, or I'm just kidding, just because your life's busy. Okay. Okay, there's a lot to talk about there. All right. First of
Yeah.
all, December. Talk to us. What made you want to get your patriarchal blessing? How did you even know about patriarchal blessings? I mean, it's really not something that I feel like that is a underutilized tool and opportunity in the church.
Yeah, the missionaries told me about it. They said, this is like, they didn't say it this way, but it's the way I took it. They said basically it's like the one of the rites of passage
Okay.
of members. And they started talking to me about it. And I was like, well, hey, when do you think I should get it? They said, you can get it anytime. So I just met with my bishop and he said, just like the basic things you have to do. And then it's interesting, I met with my ward's patriarch or stake patriarch. He had an interesting story too, because I asked everyone who's in the church how long their family was in the church or if they're like a convert or whatever. His family was in the church since its inception, and his family were bodyguards for Joseph Smith.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Wow, that's pretty cool. Okay,
Yeah.
so you meet with the patriarch. Did you do any type of pre-work or anything? I know there are a number of books out there that sometimes people like to read. What made you feel like you were prepared to receive your patriarchal blessing?
It just felt right. It just felt like it was the time. I went through some of the materials that the missionaries gave me to look at.
Okay. Well, that's fantastic for just following the promptings of the Spirit. Uh, so how did it go?
It went really, we had to reschedule because things with COVID, but I got it at like December, like right before he was leaving for Christmas on vacation. It was like December 21st or something. So I got it then. And a lot of the things that were in my patriarchal blessing were things that like I was having dreams about. It was really prophetic for
Yeah,
me.
yeah.
Hmm.
Well, obviously the things in those blessings are very sacred and personal, and so I
Yeah.
certainly want to ask about the details, but it sounds like it was a positive experience for you and really something that um helped you feel closer to the Savior. Is that fair to say?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Good, good. Well, I'm glad you had that opportunity. Um, okay, so then fast forward 2 months later, you start teaching an institute class.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Okay. There's a guy who works at Institute. Okay, most of the people who really work at Institute really are like volunteer workers.
Mhm.
But because he has a degree in like religious education from BYU, he is paid because he basically facilitates everything that goes on there. And he does this like all over the country, like goes to institutes and like helps to set up courses and then moves on. And he was basically asking one of I think the class was Eternal Families or something like that, or it was based on Jesus, which could be any class.
Sure.
And he asked the class that they were looking for like new things to teach. Some of the things that are taught at Institute are just wild. I mean, like there's classes on things that aren't even like part of the gospel, like learning the love languages. What's that got to do with Jesus? But no, I said, well, it'd be interesting if someone would teach some like horror class because a lot of people don't know much about the Old Testament. He was like, would you like to teach it? I was like, sure, okay.
Okay, so then you taught this, you said it was a 6-week institute class.
It was a 6 week institute class. Yeah.
What'd you do to prepare for it?
I decided what because he thought when I said tour class, I meant like I was gonna spend like an hour each week teaching like the individual books. But what I wanted to do, which is what I did, was just teach the basic truth of the Torah that we continue to keep. Because
Okay.
in a lot in mainline Christianity and because I was familiar with that, there's this idea that we keep none of the Old Testament,
There's an idea that we keep none of the Old Testament?
that we don't keep any of the Torah laws, but I mean, we don't get tattoos, we don't get piercings, we don't. There's a lot of things in there that we don't do.
Right.
That Paul doesn't. That Paul actually takes from the law of the Torah for like I think it's in Romans or Corinthians where he's talking about witchcraft and things like that, and you can find like laws in the Torah against that too.
Right, right. Yeah, there's a ton of overlap.
Yeah.
Okay, so how many people attended the class?
It depended on each week. It was like, I think the biggest was like 6 to 8.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a really tight, intimate group. You could have a lot of good discussions there.
Yeah.
Any feedback from it?
Um, I'm not sure. There was, I think for the last class, there's some feedback because one of the state high council came to the class.
Okay.
Yeah, and tying things up, I wanted to talk about the three Abrahamic religions and like overlap there. And he had a lot of opinions because he had friends who were Jewish and Muslim.
Yes.
Yeah, and he ended up liking the class. So it's
Oh, good.
nice when someone from the High Council likes your class.
Yeah, kind of a wipe your brow. Oh, thank goodness. I'm not getting it called into the stake president's office.
Yeah,
Okay, fantastic. Now, um, the curriculum for the class, did you write it 100%?
I took from multiple sources. I took from like a lot of sources. I did it by PowerPoint, but I took from the Old Testament from the Bible. I took from the Book of Mormon. I took from the Babylonian Talmud. I took from the writings of Rashi. I took a lot of sources.
Was there something that as you were studying, you thought man, I wish that more people from the church understood this.
There was one point, I wouldn't say, what would I say? There were things that I discovered about the church, more as I did research for like certain topics that I was doing. Like, okay, this is probably a controversial thing to say, but there is this, there was this guy who was in the church in like the 1800s. Just give a refresher course. The topic for that week was upon the ban on cross dressing in the Old Testament and in the Book of Mormon and the doctrines of the prophets. And I went through a history of what that was like and why there was a couple of members of the church in the 1800s who did it. They basic like refresher course is that in like the 1800s, women weren't allowed to be in place. So when there were women in place, it had to be a man dressed as a woman.
Hmm.
Distinguishing the vaudeville from like current like drag type cross dressing and
Sure.
showing and just talking about that and how that related to what the laws in the Old Testament and our current laws by the prophets are.
Yeah, yeah. Interesting. Yeah, because I mean, I would say back in Shakespeare's day,
Yeah,
all actors were men.
yeah,
So that'd be an interesting discussion to get into. I didn't know that the Torah touched that at all.
it does. I can't cite the verse, but it says something along the lines that women should not dress in men's dress and vice versa.
Yeah,
Yeah,
interesting. Okay, so fast forward now to May,
yeah.
and actually, let's fast forward to like April.
Okay, yeah.
What makes you want to be ordained an elder to have the Melchizedek priesthood conferred upon you?
Well, actually, I talked to the bishop in February
Okay.
because I figured he was going to be like, hey, I spoke to the sisters and they're like, we were talking about the Melchizedek priesthood. And I was like, oh, when do I want to talk to my bishop about that? Probably like June or July, right? Right before, like, because what the brothers told me was like, you get your Melchizedek priesthood right, like a couple weeks before you're endowed. And that, so I thought that it would be because I was baptized in September, you get endowed right around that time, the year after you're baptized. So I figured it'd be like August, September, I'd be given the Melchizedek priesthood. So they said, no, you can talk to him about it. So I talked to him about it, and he says he wanted me to exercise my Aaronic priesthood duties a couple more months. So I talked to him in April, and that's when he recommended me to the High Council for
Yep.
actually first he recommended me to the Elders Quorum presidency to speak about it too.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
your bishop, because ordinations to the Melchizedek priesthood occur at the stake level.
Hmm.
Stake president oversees that. So yeah, it's probably in coordination with your elders quorum president.
Yeah.
And the stake president discusses that with the high council.
Yeah.
So okay, so your bishop recommends the ordination.
Yes.
Elders quorum president gets involved, stake president gets involved. Uh,
Hmm.
and then when do you meet with the stake president?
I actually I met with the bishop on Sunday. I met with the I met with the stake president, I think, on Tuesday.
Okay.
And then I'm not sure. I think it might have been the following Tuesday. It wasn't the next Tuesday, it was the following Tuesday. And then I got contacted by the High Council on like Friday. They said, oh, when and where and who do you want to do this?
And what did you think? What went through your mind at that point?
My mind was, I'm gonna wait until the day, so I'll be excited about it when I know it's happening.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
but as soon as I said, "Who do you want to do it?" I was like, "Yeah, this is happening."
Wow. Same question as for this as your patriarchal blessing, what did you do to prepare to receive the Melchizedek priesthood?
Well, first I exercise more of my Aaronic priesthood duties, first of all, to prepare for that. I just refreshed myself on really what it was, and I asked Bishop a lot of questions. I'm like, okay, it says in I think it's in the handbook, what basically the duties of the Melchizedek priesthood is. I was like, well, how often do priesthood holders exercise unclean spirits? I just thought, he says, yeah, no, not very.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Okay. Who conferred the Melchizedek priesthood on you?
Oh, it was a brother from. Oh, here's the funny part. He's in the high council. His name is Micah Smithson. But he's in another ward. So what he does, he attends our service, our elders forum, then he goes to his service and his elders forum.
Yes.
So it's basically like a 5 hour day for him when there's linger longer.
Yeah, that's a commitment level for sure.
Yeah. So he conferred it on me. It's funny because when I met him, he's like 6'6". He's really
Yes.
tall. When I first met him, I met him at a baptism for another ward, the ward he was in. I was thinking, this is probably the only time I'll ever see him because he's not in my ward. And about 6, 8 months later, he's a priest. So I thought it was pretty funny.
That's great. That's a great story. So, how has that changed your life? I mean, what has that done for you?
I had planned originally on going to the temple within like the week of, but the person I would, because can you go to the temple by yourself? Because I know you have to have someone baptize you. So it's usually multiple people going, right?
Yeah, well, and I mean, even when you go to the temple for baptisms, the temple has baptizers. And so, no,
Okay.
you don't need to go with somebody. Your first time, though, it's good to have, it's nice to have an escort. Just
Yeah.
somebody kind of knows what's going on and can sit next to you and kind of point things out and things like that. It is not mandatory. You can go by yourself for
Right.
sure, but it's probably a more comfortable experience to go with somebody.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially since the friend I go with always buys me lunch.
Yeah, well then for sure.
I'm still coordinating with someone to I was supposed to go. I think it was like the last week of May, but then my friend got sick and he's going out of town. So we're still coordinating a time to go. So I look forward to that. And I am also attending right now, as I am preparing for endowment, I mean, in the next few months, attending a temple prep class.
Good, good. Man, that is so exciting. I am so happy for you. Um, Juxtapose your life now as opposed to where it was a year ago or
Yeah.
months ago. What's the biggest thing that stands out to you?
Um, Honestly, a year ago, not sure if I shared this last time, but a year ago, right before I started studying more and meeting with the missionaries, that was when I first met with them was July, I think July 29th, July 30th. So like end of July, which was almost a year ago.
Oh,
But like months preceding that, I was drinking a lot.
okay.
Like not like, oh, drinking a beer. I mean, like there's this one night I went out and I had the equivalent of 6 shots. I had a shot at home. I had that's seven. I had three Guinnesses, that's Irish beer, and then I had a martini. And then I went home and I could barely see a person standing 2 feet in front of me.
Yeah, yeah. So there's definitely been a significant change.
Yeah, definitely.
Has it been worth it?
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Good, good. Um, how's your ward through all of this?
I've actually switched wards. I was originally I wasn't an official member, but I originally attended um a home ward. Then
Okay.
I attended Painted Mountain, which was my former YSA ward. And
Yeah.
now I attend Canyon Lake, which is my current ward. The funny thing is, both of the wards are within the same building. So
Right. Right.
because we attended at an institute, that's where we attend services,
Yep.
document writing.
Oh man. Well, I mean, what a journey. Who would have thought? We can go back a year. Who would have thought you'd be right here right now? That's
Yeah.
very exciting. Anything you'd like to share in closing?
Uh, there's just so much. I just say there's no other church like this really in the world. And it's just, I probably should say this. In my job, I work with a lot of people. And one of the people I'm working with, the member of the church. And he fell away and I'm helping him. I'm saying, hey, why don't you live by the Red Mountain Institute? Why don't you come there a couple times? So that's because the sister said we want you to set a date, and by that date, you'll at least minister to one person.
Yeah,
And I was like, I'm never going to make that date. Then I think I kind of did.
there you go. Um, when you make a commitment like that, it seems like every time the Lord helps you follow through it. And obviously, everybody has their agency, but
Yeah.
the Lord helps you fulfill commitments that you make to Him to do His work. So that's exciting. Um, well, thank you so much for taking some time here out of your busy schedule to just kind of give us an update on what
Mhm.
life has been like for you. It's been an exciting 6 months, and I think that the next 6 months will also be just amazing. I mean, going through the temple for the first time, receiving your endowment, that's
Yeah.
that's an eternal day. Every day is eternal, but some are more eternal than
Mhm.
others. So I'm excited for you. Thanks so much for reaching back out.
Of course.